The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It's Thursday, it's February 7th, and I'm so thrilled that we're going to be here with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism and how we can all be more effective, more efficient, moving through our lives and helping other individuals, helping ourselves overcome whatever difficulties that we're facing in that particular moment. We talk about a wide range of things having to do with autism, and whether you're a parent, a teacher, a practitioner, or an individual on the spectrum yourself, we try to address from a 360-degree perspective all the different things that you might be experiencing. And I always like to remind everybody that while I sit and I'm sort of the moderator for this show, I'm your host, and I do not have any expertise in the field of autism. So I just want to be upfront about that. You might ask yourself, well, then what are you doing in that chair? Well, it's simple. I am an autism parent. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He's 9.5 now. And so what I don't have an expertise, I make up for in passion I guess I have some experiential information to add, and I learn a lot from being here because of the experts that we have here. And that's really what I want to focus on, is that we have access to the world of experts in the field of autism on your behalf. And I do think that parents have expertise as well. And we have parents on here frequently who will talk about their experience, and I really want to be the conduit. I want to be the switchboard operator here for you, so that when you have questions about something that you want answered, that I can chase down that answer for you. Sometimes it's quicker than other times, and I appreciate your patience with that, but we like to hook you up with the information and the answers and more questions, because let's face it, the list of questions is never ending, right? And just when you think, okay, I got a handle on this, then somebody else says something, you go, oh, now I have more questions. Great. But it all leads to information, and someday, perhaps in our own lifetimes, we'll say, all right, we now understand what this is. We understand what it is. We understand completely how to treat it for each and every individual who is on the autism spectrum, for them to get to the point where they are the most productive. We do talk about ABA a lot here because we know that that is one of the answers to that question, right? We know that science has shown that ABA is effective working with all of our kids on the autism spectrum. And so that's why we do talk about it a lot. That and the fact that it's pretty complicated, and it's an ongoing, you're always learning because circumstances are always different. And we talk about a lot of other things as well, though, and we always look forward to your input. So if there's something that you want us to talk about, you have a question for an expert that we've had, or an expert that you'd like to see on the show, or something that you want to add to the conversation, please take the opportunity to interact with us. And Emily's going to show you some of the different ways that you can interact with our show. While she's doing that, I'm going to remind you that there's only one place to watch us live, and that remains www.autism-live.com. Now, we are on 2 hours a day in the morning on weekdays on the Pacific Coast, but if you're in Eastern Time, the Eastern Time zone in the United States, that's going to mean from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. your time. Pacific Time, we are from 10 a.m. till noon, and all the other places that you live in the world, I'll encourage you to do the math from one of those two equations. But we if you go to autism-live.com, the show does air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's just only live during those 2 hours. And the nice thing about when we're live is that when you go there, there is this wonderful desktop that they created that makes it look like it's my personal office. I can assure you that my personal office is nowhere as neat and as colorful as that. But while you're there, there's a box that says questions that are being answered right now. You can take your cursor, put it in that box, and just type away the questions that you have, the suggestions that you have, the comments that you have. You can just say hi. You know, sometimes I don't know about you, but on this journey through autism, there were times when I just needed for people to know that I was there, that I was still breathing, that we were still clipping along as a family. Just needed for somebody to know that I was there. So if you're in that space today, give me a shout and I will say hi back. We're here for you. And I know that, boy, we had Becky Eastep on yesterday, and she said, this is great. I can't even imagine if I had this in when we were starting out, how great this would be. And both Nancy Alspaugh Jackson and I sat here and said, well, you know, that's one of the things we talk about a lot is what would we have liked on this journey, and what would we like where we are now? And if you want to be a part of that conversation, say, well, you know what, Shannon, here's what I'd like. I'd like it if you would talk about this. Bring it. We love it. And sometimes it takes us a little while to ramp up because I have to position the right expert to come in and talk about that. Sometimes we talk about it right now. It just depends. But we do love it when you guys interact with us. Okay, so it is time for us to go to the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and try to figure out just what in the hey nani are people talking about when they talk about this. Now, we have never had this we have all new jargon this week. Is that exciting to you? I was telling somebody the other day about when our son was little and we used to watch the Teletubbies. And I don't know if you guys watch the Teletubbies, but they'll show the same Teletubby episode over and over and over again for like 5, 6, 7, 8 days. And we would come close to losing our marbles. There's a reason for it, because they're giving kids the opportunity to really learn all the things that they've gone over. But as a parent, you go, I'm Teletubbied. And then we went to go someplace one day, and I said to my husband, come on, we gotta go. You know, we're late. We gotta be moving towards the door. And he turned and looked at me and said, but it's a new Teletubbies. It's a new episode. And I said, all right, we have to get out more. And I felt like we were going over some of the same jargon terms, and we needed to put some new ones into the mix. So we have some new jargon for you this week. Okay, and our term for today, and you probably have heard it before, but let's define it, casein. What are we talking about when we talk about casein? You'll hear people talk about the gluten-free, casein-free diet. Now people will talk about the gluten-free, casein-free, soy-free diet. And sometimes they just say GFCF, right? But they're talking about casein. And some people pronounce it casein. I remember the first time that, and I'm somebody who has a lot of food allergies, but the first time that I said to somebody, what can we do for our child with autism? And they said, well, you know, you can try this diet that eliminates gluten, right? So we knew about that. And then people were talking about the GFCF diet. I said, what are you saying? And they said, oh, it's casing free. And I thought they meant, you know, like sometimes in sausage, the casings that they put it in, and I was confused. So let's talk about what casein is. Our actual definition, it is a white, tasteless, odorless protein precipitated from cow's milk by rennin that is the basis of cheese and is used to make plastics, adhesives, paints, and foods. Now, isn't that an interesting little sentence, right? Right? Do you know they actually use this on matches too? Casein is on matches. All right. So what's our working definition for where we're going to start out talking about our kids? It's a protein found in milk products. Now, I want you to remember, though, that in the actual definition, it talks about plastics and adhesives and paints, because casein can show up in a lot of different things. And I think when we start out, if you're going to do any kind of an elimination thing from your child's diet, whether it's that they have a milk sensitivity or you want to try the GFCF diet and you're removing things from your child's diet, you know, it's kind of like one of those things that you start out and you go, all right, you know, we're going to do this. And then it seems like mushrooms into, oh, what have we just done? And you find out all these other things. Because if I know we looked at this and I said, oh, well, we'll just get rid of milk. And then you remind yourself, oh, wait, no, we have to get rid of milk and cheese and yogurt and cottage cheese. And, you start going down the list and you go, oh, okay, well, that's manageable, right? And then you find out that sometimes casein, they put it as an ingredient in juice boxes. And you go, what? And sometimes as you do more research, you discover that it might say it's a dairy-free product, but it has casein in it. That, in fact, there are some manufacturers that from different states and different countries that will say that. So you can't be 100% sure that it's free of casein unless you call the manufacturer or it says vegan on it. Now, that can be really difficult. One of the things that I can think of is that usually around Thanksgiving time, here in the United States, I go to buy a turkey at the store, and I know that there are like 3 brands that are GFCF usually, but I don't trust that. And every Thanksgiving, it's just like, you do your yearly mammogram. Every Thanksgiving, I call the company that I use and say, hi, and I call days in advance. Hi, I'm just wondering if which of your turkeys are gluten-free, casein-free, and I have to explain what casein is, and they have to put me through to the laboratory, and then they come back and go, oh yes, our turkeys are casein-free. Now, why do I do that every year? Because people change the formulas, and if you're trying to be strict GFCF, you're going to want to double check some things. By the way, there are some really great resources on the web if you're thinking about going GFCF, and after you do the preliminary and you've gotten used to that, and you say, I think there might be some residual small amounts of this and I want to be really pure. For instance, you can go to tacanow.org, TACANOW.org, and click on their dietary stuff. They have a whole list of restaurants and things you can get in restaurants that are GFCF, what products, and they're pretty good about updating them too. So they need to make an app about that. There is an app, and I can't think who puts it out, that helps you to know GFCF. I'm trying to think who that is, if it's ARI that's done that. I'm not sure. But in any case, there are resources that are out there for you, and sometimes it's a little intimidating. You go through and go, oh, that's a lot of stuff that may or may not have casein in it. But if you see that it's making a difference with your child, and it doesn't with all children, but if you see that it's making a difference with your child, I kind of talk about buy-in, that you eliminate like the milk and the cheese, and if you see your child is doing better, then you kind of go, oh, I'd like to really get serious about this now. You got the buy-in now, and then you're willing to look at the whole thing. There is lots of information out there, so that even in some spices, and I mentioned it's in matches, it's very interesting how our world uses casein. And if you're asking why does anyone ever eliminate gluten and casein? I'm not entirely sure that I can speak effectively to the soy part of it, but I have been to enough conferences where they've talked about GFCF and why some of our kids benefit from being on a GFCF diet. And what spoke to me particularly, I've mentioned this before on the show, you go to these conferences and there's some very science-minded people, and we need them. They're important people to have, but how shall we say this in a really polite and politically correct way? Their speeches are a little boring. That wasn't very politically correct. It's a little dry, like a stick in Texas dry. Can we say that? Okay, so, and they have these slides. It's all PowerPoint presentations, and they put up these slides, and I will admit that my attention span is perhaps not as good as it could be, like that of a gnat, but they will put up slides, peptides of gluten and casein, and they'll show you what a peptide looks like from gluten, from casein, and then they'll show you a peptide from opium. And they'll remark on the fact that there is only one part of the peptide that is different from gluten and opium, and one part that is different from casein and opium. And then in some of our kids, their ability to break down those peptides is not what it should be. And of course, that's a whole other thing that can be repaired. But in the meantime, if the child can't break down that peptide, the gluten and casein can have an opiate effect upon our kids. And I'm certainly not somebody who has had experience with opium, but I have certainly heard about it, and we all are, I think, a little bit aware of what that can look like, not being able to focus, fixating on very specific things. I mean, you start to see, ooh, okay, that could have an impact on a child with autism not for the better, to their detriment. So if you are interested in doing a GFCF diet for a period of time to see if it does have a benefit for your child, I think, there's a case for perhaps trying it. And I know in my son's case, it made a tremendous difference. But again, that's not all kids, because all of our kids don't have the same kind of autism, and they don't present in the same way, and their ecosystems are different. But is it worth trying? I believe so. It may not be for your individual family, but if you want some help and support, you can write in and ask us. I love to help families sort out, especially the gluten aspect of it, because I am literally allergic to wheat. So that part of it was easy for me. The casein, a little bit harder for me, but love to help families find the easy way to try the GFCF diet to see if it works. Okay, that's our jargon. Can you guess what tomorrow's jargon is? I'm not even going to give it away. You'll have to guess. All right, we have a question of the day for you, like every day here on the show. We've been talking a lot about research, and our question today, I cannot wait to see, because every once in a while I like a really good crab session, right? And I want you to participate in a crab session today. Let's step up and let people know what makes you angry about autism research. Go for it. No holds barred. We're going to drop in a little bit later on Facebook and see the kind of things. There's stuff that makes me angry. I'll be honest with you. If there's only this amount of money to spend, it seems like to me we should spend it on things that make sense. And sometimes the things they spend it on tears my ticket a little bit. And we've talked about the fact that we have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox in on the show on a regular basis, and he is the director of the Autism Research Group, that their mission is to take what parents want researched about autism and, pick and choose the projects that they're going to do based on what parents have asked for. And if you want to put your 2 cents on their website, you certainly can. autismresearchgroup.org, I believe. Okay, but I want to hear today, what really makes you mad? Let's go. Let's have a crab fest about it. Let's make fun of the silly, stupid, ridiculous stuff that sometimes they'll research and then put out there like, oh, now they've just changed the playing field. There's some ridiculous stuff out there. I think we all know that. Okay, now our topic for the week, as you probably know by now, it has been all week and it will continue to be all week. Autism research. This is a really important area, and as much as I make fun of some of the research, what we've been able to learn about autism from the good research that really is substantive and makes sense does change our playing field on a daily basis. I remember on the day that my son was diagnosed with autism, the physician who was diagnosing him said to me, and this was 7 years ago, she said, well, just be grateful that you live in this time, because she literally had retired the day before. And so she was seeing my son as her first day in retirement on her shortened schedule. And she had been working as a developmental pediatrician for 50 years, exactly 50 years. And she said, on my first day of being a physician and looking at and evaluating children with autism, I would have told you to take this child and have him committed and walk away. And she said, here we are 50 years and a day later. And what we've learned about autism in the last 5 years, and again, this was 7 years ago, she said, in the last 5 years, we've learned more than we knew about autism in all of the 50 years combined before. And that was exciting to me. That was very exciting, because I remember thinking, wow, then what's going to happen in another 5 years? What are we going to know in 5 years? And I have to be honest with you, I'm disappointed that we couldn't make another leap in the last 5 years. We've made little ones, but I really am excited about what's coming in the future. I think in the next 5 years that we are going to be able to phenotype autism. And you know how they used to talk about, oh, well, when my grandmother used to tell us about how when World War II was over, that they were all going to go to the street and party, and they did. Well, I assure you that on the day that we are able to say we have phenotyped autism, you can join me in the street, because that's where I will be dancing and singing and, doing whatever. Because I think that's the day that's going to be the beginning of everything. So that excites me, and we'll continue to talk about autism research throughout the day and still tomorrow. Okay, some of the different things that we are going to talk about today. We have the myth of the day, which I'm looking forward to. We have a school tip for you, and we have from time to time, there's just a blog that I got to talk about, right? And we have the blog of the week for you. We haven't even told them that we're featuring them, but a fantastic blog. You know what I love? When you see a blog that it has a sense of humor, but it has the emotional side of what we're going through, and you learn something from it. Man, when it hits all of those, we're going full steam ahead. So really excited to share a very special blog with you a little bit later on today. And we're also going to show, we premiered it yesterday, but the newest segment of the Temple Grandin interviews, we're going to show that a little bit later on. And I'm excited to talk about that because it was a really fun aspect of the interview. Really, really excited to talk about that. Okay, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, because we've been talking about research and we've been talking about that phenotyping autism and how important it is, I have an announcement about something that's happening locally here that we're going to share with you, so that if you are in the Los Angeles area, you might want to participate in this. Stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back. You're live on Autism Live, and I've got my friend Jennifer here. I'm so excited she's here to help me. She's got a son named Dylan. I got a son named Jeff. We got all sorts of allergy issues. And a lot of you say, what the heck can we do to eat breakfast that's not full of carbs?
And getting my son to eat vegetables.
Oh,
Yeah.
This is a vegetable. So we're going to eat vegetables today. And
All right.
so what we're making is a zucchini muffin. So let's go ahead and get started. So we just dumped in our zucchinis. You can start with less if you want to graduate your kid to actually eating healthy. We're going to do some eggs. And again, I use the organic cage-free eggs. So there's our eggs. I'm going to add in our oil. Again, I use a high heat oil, and the reason why I use a high heat oil, because when you bake, you want to make sure you're using an oil that doesn't disintegrate, because when oil gets too hot and it's not meant to get hot, it becomes toxic. So you got to be careful with your oils. So there goes our maple syrup, and again, organic maple syrup. What we're going to add next is cinnamon and our baking soda, baking powder to our mix. There's a lot of variations on flours. A lot of our kids are allergic to wheat, so there's a lot of things we can do to make this SCD, specific carbohydrate compliant, or just gluten-free, casein-free, soy-free. And flaxseed meal. Flaxseed meal is a great resource for extra fiber within the kids' diets. We're just going to turn on this fabulous, wonderful KitchenAid, and we're good. It's a great, great looking batter. And what we're going to do is talk a little bit about baking, where almost everything is aluminum, and aluminum can be a problem for some kids, especially kids that can't methylate and take the toxins out with their body. But if you've got, like me, I've got muffin tins, so I have the ability to just simply put in some cupcake holders, and that actually holds that together if I want to freeze it. Hey, nice work. Those look good, but wait till you see them when they're done.
All right.
So go ahead and pull them out. Here are the fabulous muffins. Now, if you've got a sensory kid that doesn't like vegetables, I can already I Spy the zucchini. Remember what I told you earlier? Dissolve that simply by peeling off the green layer, and then it will cook literally translucent. Such a nice golden brown. I love how the texture is. We know that the breakfast can be a challenge. This makes that process a whole lot easier for you and your family. I really appreciate all the feedback. We definitely want to hear from you for our next segment. If you'd like us to cook something or maybe make an old favorite, and that's allergy-free, we can do that here on Autism Live. So give us your feedback. You can email us at autismlive@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page like everybody. facebook.com/autismlive. And also you can reach Taka on the Taka website at Taka Now. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for joining us on Autism Live.
Say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back. We had talked to you a couple of weeks ago when we had Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. It might have been before the holiday break. But there is a new thing that is happening. There's a partnership with Lineagen that is happening, and Skills and Lineagen. And we've talked before about Skills. Skills is an online curriculum that I use, and it's amazing. And they've partnered with Lineagen, and we had Dr. Jonathan Tarbox come in and talk to us about what it is exactly they're doing and why it's so exciting. That there's a component of Skills now where you can, through Skills, you can sign up to have your child genetically tested with Lineagen. And they will pursue all of your insurance for you to see that it's paid through insurance so that there's no cost to you. And there's going to be an open house here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California, where Lineagen will be talking about the benefits of genetic testing. And it's taking place on Tuesday, February 19th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'm reading it right off the flyer here. And it will be on the third floor of the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters. It is... I know they're planning on it being a relatively small meeting. So if you want to go, and if you're in the Los Angeles area, you really need to RSVP. And you need to do that as soon as possible. And you'll want to RSVP to s.price@thecenterforautism.com. And you need to RSVP by next Friday. And they're looking at chromosomal microarray analysis. It's called CMA. And they believe that most insurance coverers will pay for it, so it won't be out of pocket. And if there is an out of pocket, they will determine it before you do it so that you can say yay or nay, because we all have budgets, right? And the reason why we want to do this CMA, this chromosomal microarray analysis, is that it can identify genetic conditions that underlie the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, and having a genetic diagnosis can personalize medical management for your child and inform recurrence risk for additional family members. Okay, they are also going to be able to identify more genetic variants related to ASD than any other CMA. It's a special thing that they do called First Step Plus, and it does come with a genetic counseling portion. So a very exciting thing, and my understanding is you do not have to be in the Los Angeles area to benefit from this, that if you are a Skills user, that you have the ability to proceed with this. But they are going to be having a specific meeting about it here in Los Angeles for parents to be able to ask more questions about it. Now, when we first talked about this on the show, and we had Dr. Jonathan Tarbox talking about it, I mentioned this on the air to Nancy Allspaw Jackson, and I said, have you had this done? Did you? Because we did not. We did not do the, again, I want to get it right, chromosomal microarray analysis. But I'm hearing that more and more families, actually, that's not entirely true. What we did do was test for Fragile X. That's what we were offered on the day that our child was diagnosed. I said, what else can we do? And she said, well, we could look and see if it's Fragile X. We never heard back, so it was always my assumption. And looking at my son now, it seems unlikely that would have been it. But we knew at that time that if it was Fragile X, there was a different course, right? And as we were just talking about phenotyping autism, if you are armed with knowledge, right, that at this point in the game, it can personalize medical management for your child if you see that it comes back genetically in certain things. We have seen, I'm now meeting people and they are saying, well, my child has autism and it's from this chromosomal thing. And so they're starting to phenotype it for themselves. It's a powerful, powerful thing, and it's something that I want to participate in for my son. And if you can get it paid for by your insurance, I mean, I realize there's always things, and meeting your deductible and taking up money for different things. I get that. But it seems like this is a great opportunity where they're going to pursue that for you. I know I'm doing this. So, and there is free parking available, but you do need to RSVP to s.price@centerforautism.com. And we'll be talking about it more on the show, and we're going to have somebody from Lineagen on the show to talk more specifically about this research and what it can mean for us. Imagine, that thing that I was talking about 5 years down the road, when we're going to be able to say, all right, my child has type 21A autism, and so this is the course of treatment for it. But if we can do some part of that now, how exciting would that be for us and for our kids? We're always looking for how do we make more effective, more efficient the work that we do with our kids so that they get to the ultimate progress. And I realize for those of you who are out there who are considering having a second child, third child, fourth child, whatever number child you're on, sometimes it's a really personal thing, and sometimes you want to be informed and sometimes you don't want to be informed. But I believe that this is one of the things they're going to talk about at Lineagen, so that if you want to know what the risk is for other family members, that you can ask. And if you aren't interested, you can say, this part of it, we don't want to know. We don't want to be informed of that. So interesting. But that's Lineagen, and the date for this is Tuesday, February 19th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And again, if you want to RSVP to s.price, Price, at centerforautism.com. I'm excited about this. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk about the myth of the day, so stick with us.
Welcome back. For the month of February, I thought it'd be a great idea to work on an activity that would help your kiddos identify and label emotions. And to help me out today is my good friend, Jamie.
Hey, Suzanne.
Hey there, Jamie.
Hey, how can I help?
Well, the way you can help me out is that because you're a sock puppet, you can do things with your face that I cannot do.
No way.
Totally. The way you can do it is that, you have interchangeable features, which means you can make super exaggerated faces, which makes it easier for kiddos to identify them and to label them.
Uh-huh.
Hey, I have a favor to ask you.
Yeah?
Can you help us out and show us some of your faces you can make?
Of course. Here we go.
Ooh, you look super mad.
I was super mad.
Can you show us another one?
Sure.
Ooh, you look super sad.
I was super sad.
All right, can you show us one more?
One more.
All right. You look super excited.
I was super excited.
I am too. You know why? Because I really want to show everyone how to make a little buddy like you. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are googly eyes, felt, a hot glue gun, imagination, scissors, Velcro, some heavy cardstock, and a clean sock. All right, let's get to it. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to grab your sock. Hopefully it's not dirty and used. It's a clean one. And what you're going to do is that you're going to take your sock, fold it in half like so, and then you're going to take your scissors and cut down. The reason we're doing this is that we're going to make an area for the mouth. The next thing you want to do is you want to trim the inside a little bit, because if you don't, it's going to have an overbite. So I'm just going to take my scissors and just trim a little bit off, not much. Now that this guy is ready, I'm going to take a hard cardstock or note card or whatever you have that's a piece of paper. I'm going to fold it in half. And what I'm going to do with this is going to be the inside of its mouth, the kind of reinforcement so you are able to move its mouth around. So I'm going to just cut it into an oval. And don't worry, if it's a little too big, you can always trim it. With this sock puppet project, the materials we're using, like the hot glue, is not something for children. So this is something you're going to be doing by yourself and then asking your child to join in once the puppet is ready to go. All right, now that I got that out of the way, let's start gluing. I'm going to take my hot glue gun and I'm going to glue it on the paper. Okay, once I have that, I'm going to put that in the inside of its mouth, and then I'm going to take the sock and then pull it over the edge and cover it with the glue. All right, so now that I have the bottom part done, I'm gonna do the same thing to the top. So now that we have this part assembled, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a piece of felt and we're gonna cover this area so you don't see all the scraggly stuff. So I have my piece of felt right here. I'm gonna fold it in half and I'm just gonna cut out a similar oval shape. And again, don't worry if it's too big, you can always trim it after we glue it on. I'm gonna glue it inside. All right, now we got pretty much the base of the sock puppet. He's got a moving mouth, but wait, he's got no features. We gotta help him out with that. So what I'm gonna do is I have these pieces of Velcro that I bought that are already sticky on the back, which makes my life a lot easier. And I'm gonna peel this off and place it where I want his eyes. So one there and one there. And then I'm also gonna put them also along his mouth. And then if you want to get fancy, you can put some for his eyebrows as well. So now that I have this, we should be making some features for him. I'm alive! Alive! I had a great time with my buddy Jamie, and I hope you did too. Until next time, bye.
Bye. And don't forget to send us your photos at facebook.com/autismlive.
Can you see me? Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have a question that came in on the live feature, and I'm not 100% sure at what time that it came in, because I believe I might have left the live feature on overnight. I don't know. So it could have been this morning, could have been last night, I don't know when. But somebody wrote in and said, where should parents go when school abuse happens on ESE students other than hiring an advocate? Also, who do we talk to in order to get ABA therapy implemented in our public schools ESE interventions program so that those who can't afford private education can have equal opportunities? Thank you. And so we're showing that to you right now. All right, there's a bunch of different questions in there. Let's start with, and I have questions about, let's start with the abuse in the school. First question for me is, who is doing the abuse? Is it a student or a member of the school? And the reason why I'm asking that is because if it's a student, you know, that's one issue, and you're going to want to involve the school in that. If it is somebody at the school level, the school has to get involved, but I don't know how high up this goes. So for instance, if it's the teacher who has in some way abused your child, you're certainly going to want to notify the principal. But and this is just me as a parent saying this, and you'll have to weigh in terms of what the abuse was and what relationship you want ongoing with the school. But if I ever discovered that somebody at the school who was a member of the school had in some way physically abused my child, I would call the police. That's where I would start. I would call, if you know, because I like my principal, so I'm just trying to imagine, you know, if I did like the principal, I would give them a heads up and say, hey, the police are on their way, because we're filling out a police report against this individual. But that's how I roll. That isn't necessarily how you roll, but you have lots of different options that are open to you regardless of what kind of abuse it was and who perpetrated. There is, if you go to www.edu.gov, there are places on that site, and they change it from time to time, but you can go there and you will find under education what to do about bullying, what to do about abuse. There are people, there's a hotline that you can call, and I'll see if I can pull that information up, but that will intervene on your behalf, because if it's high up with the principal, and we saw here in Los Angeles that there were some things that happened that still are mind-boggling to me that didn't necessarily involve ESE students, but involve students, and I don't know in those circumstances whether if I was at that school, if I would have called the principal. This is why I say, you know, just go to a very high authority and call the police. But the government does have boards that are in place to to step in if something is happening in a school if you're not getting the correct response. So depending on what's happening and whether you trust the people at school, you have many options. The thing we don't have as a parent is the option of saying that we can't do anything, right? And you might find that as you pursue these things, you'll come up against stumbling blocks. Like if it's happening with other children and you go to the teacher and to the principal, and I always advocate putting things in writing, and we've heard from our lawyer friends who've been on the show that email counts as writing in terms of the law now, and that's a good thing to know. So I try to put things in writing. And I'll be honest with you, when I don't put things in writing, I mention that. I say to school officials, I want to have a conversation about this because you know how difficult things can be when we put things in writing. Letting them know, that that's where we're at with this, right? That I can put this in writing and then it becomes a whole other thing. Always trying to keep as good of a relationship as you can as long as it doesn't jeopardize your child. If my child and their safety is at stake, I don't care at that point about the relationship as much. But again, that's me. You certainly can hire an advocate. You certainly can hire a lawyer, but that's not possible for everybody, right? Some advocates, by the way, will take on a case for a lower amount because it's a case either where they're seeking standing, that they have another case that, and they know your case is winnable and it will give them standing for their other case. And sometimes they do it just as a labor of passion. A lot of times you'll find that advocates are parents who had children on the spectrum and certain things really get their goat. But don't be afraid to ask and shop and say, hey, I need you to take this pro bono, or would you do this at a greatly reduced cost? And I know people who have fundraisers, and if your child's being abused, there are people who will donate to help you to get an advocate. But again, it depends on what the abuse is and who it's coming from, how far you need to take it. But many different options. And as start where you feel the most comfortable and work your way up, depending on the seriousness of it. And then you say also, who do we talk to about getting an ABA therapy implemented in our school's ESE intervention program, so that those who can't afford private education can have equal opportunities? Lots of different things that you can consider. And we've had different parents that have had different things work depending on the individual relationship with the school and where the school is in terms of, do they have their head in the sand or are they proactive? And sometimes these things take time. But of course, we always start with our very own child's IEP. And we can, depending on the school that you're at, legally we cannot request a specific method. FAPE, free appropriate public education, is what we're entitled to in the least restrictive environment for our child. And the least restrictive environment, by the way, can change from day to day. So when we tear that down, the free appropriate public education, the word that's most important to me is appropriate. And we really need as parents to be cognizant of what appropriate means, because to the school, appropriate does not mean best. And there is no dictionary, believe me, I looked. There is no dictionary that has appropriate as being best. We are not entitled to, according to the current law, what is best. But we are entitled to what's effective. And there are some dictionaries that will define appropriate as effective. And we certainly have legal standing there, and there have been lots of people who we can stand on their shoulders to get this done. But if you go in and keep yourself positive and say, we are wanting to make progress and we want to do what's effective, we are aware of, and there are stacks of studies that show that ABA is effective in the classroom and that ABA is effective as a teaching tool. You just heard Dr. Dorian Grampiche yesterday say it's the most effective teaching tool. Doesn't matter if you have autism, it's the most effective teaching tool. The principles of applied behavior analysis. And we have access to those studies, and I know Dr. Jonathan Tarbox has said if you're going into an IP and you need copies of those studies, to contact the Center for Autism and they'll hook you up with those printable studies, and that you can sometimes find them from the people who did the studies. We'll send them to you for free. I know you go online and they say, oh, you need $30. You don't need $30 to be able to get those studies. You can go in and say, here's what we know to be effective. Now, I understand you don't do ABA. Can you show me some data to show that what you're doing is effective? Because that's all we care about. If you don't want to do ABA, we have the effective pile here, but we just want what's effective. So for the program that you're offering, can you show us data that it's effective? And that's when the school goes, oh, schmoly, right? Or whatever word they're using to be politically correct, because they don't have data, because there isn't data on other things to show that it's effective. So that's really where you start, is trying to get it built into the IEP. It's an uphill battle. I will warn you that that's essentially what we went into an IEP meeting and said. And twice the school district filed due process against us because, they get afraid. So I will say that you will scare your school, but my child got the benefit of, and the other children coming behind him got the benefit of that. So, but be as nice as possible. Try not to make enemies. I'm not as good at that. But you can also, if you have a really good relationship and somebody's showing interest and says, hey, I'd like to know more about ABA, how do I do this? There's IBT now, the Institute for Behavioral Training, has trainings that it's all interactive. You do it on your own time, short, to the point subjects that are perfect for teachers, perfect for administrators to implement some of this, and they're as inexpensive as $10 a module, and the teachers get credit for them, continuing education credits. It's amazing. And that's the Institute for Behavioral Training. And we've been talking about them a little bit. It's new and it's hot. It's just really, this is what I gave for Christmas gifts to my teacher, because it's just amazing. And there's CARD learning, and there's skills. Skills can be used on with a school so that they already have an ABA curriculum. They don't have to reinvent it. It's so affordable for a school. The cost per child is unbelievable. I don't even know what it is, so I don't want to quote anything, but I know that it's amazing. And you can go to skills for autism.com to find out more information about that. And you could go to your school and say, hey, is there any possibility you'd be interested in this? And then they can have a whole demo done for it for free. But again, it depends on the relationship that you have with the school. Sometimes you will see that schools go, no thanks, we already have something. And there's nothing you can do at that point. But at your child's individual IEP, you say, all right, well, here's what we know to be effective. Show me the pile of papers that shows that what you're doing is effective. I guarantee you they don't have it. Frustrating. And I hope, I really feel like we're talking about today, 5 years down the road, I really hope that for the benefit of all of our kids who are in school, we will make it a prerequisite for all teachers and all people who interact with children in the school. And I'm talking about the ladies in the lunchroom. I'm talking about the bus drivers. I'm certainly talking about the aides. I'm talking about the administrators. Have to go through a training in appropriate intervention for challenging behaviors and teaching techniques using the principles of ABA, because it's what's effective for all of our kids, not just our kids on the spectrum. That's going to take some time. It's going to take some retooling, and it's going to take some initiative on some of our legislators' parts, especially in Washington, D.C. And I hope that the United States will set that benchmark so that the rest of the world will then look and say, okay, this needs to be done. All right, I hope I answered that question, but depending on, write back and tell us if you're still watching what the abuse is, and if you even remotely think there's a possibility that you should involve the police. I would encourage you to do it. That will certainly put an end to what's happening right now. But again, my advice, and for what that's worth. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, then we really are going to do the myth of the day, which is something that's been coming up all week long. Anytime something keeps coming up, I go, oh, we got to talk about this. So we're going to talk about it. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The Skills Assessment and Curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes Skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The Skills Assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the Skills Assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back. It is time for the myth of the day. We do this from time to time because there's so much misinformation out there, right? And as if it's not bad enough that there's misinformation, what really upsets me is that sometimes we all find ourselves going down a path because we got the misinformation, the myth information. And I guess I was right the first time. And it's time that's wasted. It's time that we don't ever get back. And we really want to minimize that, right? So today I'm talking in particular about how much time should be devoted to your ABA program. And we've had a lot of questions about it, and I've had a lot of parents asking me questions about it in the last week, and so it seems like it's the thing to talk about today. Okay, there is this 40-hour-a-week notion, and I want to talk about that briefly because I remember what it was like when I heard that the first time. It took the wind out of my lungs. I remember going, what? What? Because when my child was first diagnosed, I remember saying, how are we going to pay for, he's going to need things, and how are we going to pay for it? And somebody said to me, don't worry about it. You live in California. You're going to go through the regional center. And right out the gate, we did our initial evaluation, and we had to wait for a while. It took like 3 months, and then they offered us this early start program, which everybody had said, well, there's early intervention, and you really need to get early intervention. And so there was this early start, and because it had early, and I was overwhelmed, underslept, I went, oh, that's what they're talking about. So we did this very specific thing, and it meant that he had speech and he had OT, and he had this group session, and then he had some private sessions with a therapist. And I felt this huge overwhelm because it was, I think, 8 hours a week, and it turned my whole life upside down, or at least on its side. And I went, what just happened? You know, it seemed like I was always getting in the car and going to the OT appointment over here, and then going to the speech appointment, and I got to get home for the therapist, and then I got to be there for the group, and it was a lot. And that was 8 hours. So when they started talking to me about, you do want to do ABA, when he turns 3, you're not going to be eligible for these services anymore. This is only up until 3. And when he turns 3, you're going to want to have ABA in place, and you need to get on the waiting list. And I was saying, what is this ABA thing that you're talking about? And they were saying, and ideally, somebody said to me, ideally you want to get 40 hours a week. And I, like I said, pulled the air right out of my lungs. And I was, that's just preposterous. How on earth does anybody make that work? And I remember saying, as so many people do, that's a full-time job. That's a full-time job. He's a child. He's 3. It's a full-time job. Okay, well, here's what I want you to know about the 40 hours. First of all, 40 hours, we say between 30 and 40 hours a week for children who are not yet in school. They're preschool. You're going to have a difficult time starting out there. No one should start there. You need to ramp up to 30 to 40 hours a week, but that is the window in which we have seen the most progress gets made and the kids have the best possible outcome. 30 to 40 hours. And until we get other research that shows something differently, it's the prescription for that age group. And as a parent or as a caregiver, let it suck the air out of your lungs, and then remember that you can do it. You can do it, and it's worth it. And don't say no to it because it seems overwhelming, or that you're not going to be able to make it fit with the rest of your family. This is one of these things when I say to you, with all respect to what your life was before, don't run into this. Run into it. You will thank yourself and me a year from now. Because that year of intensive behavioral intervention will change the way your family works. It will change the way you look at your child. It will change the rest of the way the world looks at you. It will change the way your child can communicate with you. It will make a huge difference, but you must run into it. Be frustrated, be angry, be resentful, bring it here to me and say to me, Shannon, I am so angry that I don't get to go to Florida this year on a vacation because my child has 40 hours of therapy, or I didn't get to the grocery store this week because I didn't get to schedule it in. I haven't had a shower and I don't know how. Bring me all of that, and I will say to you, yes, and I know, and send you an air hug and say, but let's take a look at where your kid is in a year. And you will never be sorry. I will promise you, you will never, never be sorry if you're working with a quality ABA provider. There's that asterisk there, right? Now, once a child is older and in preschool and in kindergarten, starting kindergarten, is the 40-hour program possible, and is it feasible, and is it going to have the same effect? And I think that while the studies are still not where we want them to be, I think any conscionable ABA provider would say to you that if the child's already going to school, you don't have 40 hours. You just don't. It's not feasible. The time is not there. So you're going to have a less intensive, and maybe then you have 20 hours. Or maybe because your child only goes to kindergarten half day, maybe you have eked out a 30-hour program at that time. But 40 hours in addition to going to school for a kindergartner is going to probably, in most cases, maybe not all, but it's not going to be feasible. And hopefully some of the things in school will help address some of the things that can't be addressed at home. But that in-home time is so valuable, is so valuable. And for parents who are starting out, I don't want you to balk at the 40-hour thing. You will, but then keep moving through it. It's so important to give them the right prescription. And for kids who are older, the right prescription is going to be different. Our expectations are going to be different, but so important for that early intensive behavioral intervention, get yourself in that 30 to 40-hour window. Now, somebody had asked about yesterday that their in-home 40-hour-a-week program is going to be done in about a year, and that they can file for an extension, and if accepted, they would get around 20 hours, if that. And they want to know, what are their options to fill in the gap? Because and also there are some of you, I mean, I look at that and I go, wow, you have 40 hours a week for a whole other year. You are living large, because that isn't the case for a lot of people. And what are your options as a parent? And I was talking with somebody about this the other day, that, you know, there's good, better, best, right? Best possible practice that we know gets the job done is to have that intensive behavioral intervention in your home, and so that it's one-on-one in your home, 40 hours a week. And if you can get a child at 2, 2.5, 3, boom, you're like really getting it done if you're in that market. Now, you may not be able to afford 40 hours because your insurance doesn't cover it and you can't find another funding source that's going to cover 40 hours. Maybe your insurance provider said, oh, we're going to cover 10 hours or 20 hours. And you've heard our experts say that's not going to get it done. That's like taking one penicillin pill and instead of for 10 days and expecting the result to be the same. It isn't going to get it done. So how do you supplement that? There are... You know, I go back to skills. I think that's a great thing for you to be able to use. So if you've got the 10 hours of ABA and you know you need to get another 20 in there, then you've got the tools to be able to do that with skills. Again, that's skillsforautism.com. But you have to figure out, there's also another alternative too that's sort of in between that. If you have an ABA provider and you've got the funding to do 10 hours a week with them, that we've had many parents who have gone and gotten volunteers in their community, gotten them trained using some of the CARDI learning stuff, and now you have the Institute for Behavioral Training that can train your volunteers as well, and they can come in and be learning and working with your ABA provider so that you're supplementing that. There's always a way. There's always a way, and there are parents out there. You don't have to reinvent that wheel. There are parents out there who have made that work for themselves. I don't think we have it anymore, but for a long time we were showing the Maddie video. Do we have that anymore, Emily? This is a young girl who she's going to check and see if we have it. In the Midwest, her parents were they didn't have an ABA provider close by them, and they were trying to have a 40-hour-a-week program with their young daughter because they'd read the research, done the math, and said, we got to make this happen. And so they were trying to learn all of it themselves and coming up with their own curriculum, and they got together all these people in their church and said, we have these volunteers, we're going to train them. And then CARDI Learning and Skills came out, and they said, this is exactly what we've been doing. So they trained their staff, and they used the curriculum from Skills and made a huge difference in this little girl's life. Huge difference. We'll see if we have that video to show you, but I throw that out there because you wouldn't be the first parent to do that. And if you still are in a place where your child, you've had 40 hours for 1 year and you still need, whether it's 30 or 40 the next year, and all you're given is 10 or 20, you are going to want to supplement. So you can do it with volunteers, you can do it yourself with Skills, but it's getting it done. So we do have the Maddie video. Let's take a look at it. Let's see if it's up and working. It's one of our older ones. So take a look. This is Maddie's story.
When Maddie was diagnosed, I'll be honest, I was very ignorant on what autism was. I knew that autism was basically something that hit boys at the age of 2 to 3 and shut down. And sometimes you think of the typical Rain Man movie. And with Maddie, she was doing all the same signs and symptoms of a typical child with autism spectrum disorder.
Stand up.
She
didn't even acknowledge us coming into the room. She had barely any eye contact. She didn't interact with her sisters. She didn't really do anything. She just basically lined up her toys, and that was about it. We have a team of 7 volunteers, or 8 now. We have 8 volunteers, including my husband and I. And I'm the team leader, and so I do all the curriculum and get everything ready each week.
Jana was downstairs until 11 o'clock at night working on curriculum, going through 2 different textbooks. And then we, as a group, meet on Monday nights, and we would go through what the curriculum was from Jana. And a lot of times we would go, well, how exactly do you do that? How do you sit her at the table and do this trial base? Well, what Skills has done for us, it's taken that away from Jana trying to figure out the curriculum for one. She can go down, or even our laptop, and she can sit down, and through all these questions, it comes up with the different programs.
At least for me, it was a relief off my shoulders. I was worried that I might be missing something, missing a curriculum that maybe she needs to know, where Skills, they have every possible thing your child needs to know from 0 to 7. They have a program for that.
What noise is this? Good job!
Every program that we did with her, I knew it was specific for what she needed to learn. Because before Skills, it was a lot of, okay, well, is that really age appropriate for a 2-year-old? You know, because it's not generalized. It's anywhere from 0 to 7. This is what your child needs to know in most manuals you'll find. But for this, okay, yep, she should be learning this. And no, she's not 4 yet. She doesn't need to know that yet.
We are so fortunate that Jana was able to attend a conference put on by CARD that opened the door for Skills, and that there's no looking back for us.
We started using the program in November, and it seemed like by January something just clicked, and she has completely kind of came out of her fog that she was in for quite a while.
I have never read a documented case on any child that has not benefited anything from applied behavior analysis, and now with this new Skills and being, you know, like the E version of ABA, I can't imagine it doing anything harmful to their child. It's nothing but exponential growth for us.
To see her now, it just blows us away. I mean, we call her our little miracle child because in 7 months' time, she has just blossomed into this normal, functioning child, and suddenly, we joke about it all the time, like suddenly we have twins.
If you're even thinking about doing it, do it. Because the absolute worst thing you can do is do nothing at all. And even if you use this program and it's just a single mom or a single dad working in the evenings with their child, this program is going to benefit them. It's going to show you where they are, it's going to show you where they need to go, and it's going to show you what skills and how to get there. It is an online book on how to help recover your child.
There you go. That's the Maddie video. Very exciting what can be done. So my advice to you, because you're on it parents, is that you figure out what works best for you. For that particular family, having volunteers from their church, other people have used sororities. You know, every sorority and every fraternity has to have some sort of an outreach project in order to keep their charter at their local college. And it has to be of some benefit to the community. And I have seen several families that have approached a sorority, especially if it was a sorority that they belonged to at some point, and said, hey, how would you guys like to do this? When you think about it, it's kind of an amazing thing, because then it becomes a project for the entire sorority house and everybody gets trained. It's great job skills for them to put on their resume later on. They really make a difference in a child's life, and they have ongoing conversation. And as there's attrition, because a class graduates, then the next class comes in, and they know this child is our project, and it really, really makes a difference. And think about the fact, you know, I know people feel funny about asking people in general to volunteer their time to help their child, but think about any time you've made a difference in somebody's life, how life-changing that is. And to look, there's a lot of things that sororities could be spending their time doing, and instead helping to help a child reach their fullest potential has many different, I can just picture, when you throw the rock into the pond and all the ripples that go out, all the different things that it will change for them as they move through their lives, and as they go to become teachers, and as they go to become pediatricians, and all kinds of other things, that they will go with that informed knowledge of having worked really intensively for one child. And after your child no longer needs that intensive treatment, then there's the potential for them to move on to another child. Really benefiting everyone when you stop and think about it. You don't need to feel funny about asking people to help you and help your child. Okay. It is time for us, we're actually a little bit late, go to the A Word. This is the amazing documentary being made. It's an ongoing documentary about the intervention of a child. He is Jack Riley. He was diagnosed with autism at 2. In real time, he has already turned 4, but we're at the point in the series he's not yet 3, and we're seeing how this intervention, this 40-hour-a-week intervention, plays out with the family. It's sometimes frustrating for the parents, but they're learning too. Everybody is learning, and certainly the person who's learning the most is Jack Riley. So let's take a look. This is the A Word.
We skipped a few in the middle, didn't we, love? Jack Riley likes to watch videos about the ABCs, or the ABBCs, as he likes to say. He kept throwing a fit and misbehaving when he wasn't getting what he wanted. We finally decided it was time to turn off the computer. And of course we did that without warning him.
He threw one of the biggest tantrums I've ever seen from him, because he's used to getting his way now, because now that he can say it, we're supposed to reward him. But now he's testing us.
While we are 100% ABA advocates and we believe it is working on our son, there is a little fallout in reinforcing these requests that he doesn't quite understand now, that he doesn't get everything he wants.
Bye-bye! This is completely typical. When requesting isn't something that happens naturally with your child, you want to create as many opportunities to practice the skill. So you reinforce each time they request, because it will increase the frequency they demand. Once the requests are at a rate you want, then you should begin to fade the frequency of reinforcement and teach new advanced skills, such as having the child wait for a desired item or let them know that they must choose something else. These are all life skills. Not every desire will be met, but you are more likely to get what you want if you communicate your wants appropriately.
You want some applesauce, buddy?
Yeah, why don't we put the car over here,
Yeah,
bud?
let's take the car. We're just gonna take a break. Take a break. Take a break. Do you want this? Do you want the car?
Do you want more car?
Settle down. Settle down.
Okay,
Settle
do you
down.
want more car? Okay, and you want applesauce? Okay. Alright, take another bite. One more. There you go.
Nice, that was a good
Okay.
bite too, buddy.
There you go.
Good bite.
Alright. Yeah, I should have warned him before I took it away.
We get reminded all the time. It just works so well.
It does, it really
You
does,
forget to
yeah.
do it. And
Okay, 10 more seconds and bye-bye car, okay? Bye-bye car. 10 okay. Okay, let me have it. Bye-bye car. No, that's okay, settle down.
Thank you.
Take two bites, please. Do you want the car?
Yes.
Two bites. 2 bites. Good talking.
One. And then
Good
two.
job. Good job, buddy.
Good job.
Good job. Good job.
How has mealtime been going with you? Still the same? Still
Yeah, it's
pretty
going well. Yeah, you know what he had last night? Did Cheryl tell you?
No.
We are documenting this because this bite of spaghetti that he's about to take is the first ever meal that Jack Riley has had exactly what Mommy and Daddy are having. the exception of the cottage cheese. He would eat that too, but we're going slow. I realize it's just spaghetti, and lots of kids probably eat spaghetti, but our kid never did. Not for us, anyway. And now, he's like just a regular kid having dinner with mom and dad.
Good boy. Say choo-choo. Choo-choo. Say here we go. Here you go. All right, make it go down. Go down. Whee! Yay! Good job. Should we build more tracks? Yeah, a boat track. Okay, sure. Here you go. Do you want the green one or the blue one? Green. What trees? You want which one? Black. You want black? Oh, well, none of the ones I offered you. Cool. I like that. I like it. And he's definitely requesting more eating and drinking, which is really good to hear. So I don't know if they want to introduce him to other things. Like, it's up to them. But just the fact that he's requesting to drink is a big deal for him. Hey, Jack, one more minute, okay? Say, okay. 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 He has an issue sometimes, like inflexibility a little bit, with just the trains in particular. When I'll ask him to come over to do a program real quick, he'll want to clean up the trains up every single time. With the other toys though, like I can call him over, he can take a break, he's totally fine, and then after we're done with our program, he'll go back and he'll play. With the trains in particular, I don't know why he wants to clean them up every single time. So I'll run some programs and we'll see if he has that issue still. Hey, Jack. Good looking. Come here. Yeah! That's such good listening. Good job, mister. What is this? What are those? Papa. No, what are these? Papa. What's this? What's this one? Ears. Yay! There you go. Ears. Very good, kiddo. Hey, look at me. Hey, look over there. Yay! There you go. What are these? Fingers. Good job. What are... Mouth, yeah. What's this? Head. Very good. Okay, one more sticker. What are these? Fingers. Good job. All right. Yeah, that transition was a lot better. Where's Piglet?
So cute. So that is the A word, and you can watch it on their very own YouTube channel. And we encourage you to go and watch. Start in the beginning, skip around wherever you want, watch what's happening with him right now, but you really begin to see a depiction of the arc of ABA. Of course, they're not showing you everything because that would mean having a camera up in his room constantly, and that would be a huge invasion on their privacy. But so thrilling that this family was willing to do this in this way so that you can see, okay, this is what it looks like. And this goes kind of hand in hand with what we were talking about the myth a day about this 40-hour thing. So Jack Riley at this point, I think at this point he's ramping up and almost at the 40-hour a week because they got to start and give them a running jump at it, right? Don't want to overwhelm the child. And you see that when people say, okay, how are we going to do 40 hours a week? This just doesn't make sense, and the children are going to be so tired, and they do get tired. They do get tired, and you do get to a point where they're done for the day or they're done for the week, right? But you're very sensitive to that. The therapists are very sensitive to that. And we go back to the point, though, about giving somebody an opportunity to do something. And the more opportunities that you have to do something, the more likely that you're going to learn and grow from it. So it is intensive. That's why that word is in early intensive behavioral intervention. But notice that at one point the therapist talks about the fact that they sit there and they do a lesson, and that may take, 3 minutes, it may take 10 minutes, whatever, and then they take a break and they go and play. What's great about it is that the child does get a break. And sometimes it is a break that they get to go play, and no demands are put on them. And the therapist gets an opportunity to be there in the room with the child, but they're marking down the data and graphing things so that you can look at things and understand where the progress is and where it isn't. But a lot of times when they're playing too, it's an opportunity to work on another set of skills. It's just a little bit more reinforcing for the child. The child doesn't know that they're continuing to work on something. And these therapists are trained to take advantage of every single possible teaching moment. You want to learn as a parent about how many teaching opportunities there are in an hour. Spend some time with a really rock star therapist. It blows your mind. So you see that, and Jessica qualifies. She was one of my son's therapists, in fact. And you see that she lets him play. She's marking down her stuff. He's playing with the trains. And then she says to him, Jack Riley, come here. And he gets up and he immediately comes over to her and she's like, yay, yay. And she gives him a hug and he's just smiling and he's so happy to be there. He's like, oh, I came to Jessica and everything is wonderful. She goes, okay, let's play a game, right? And she goes into the next lesson. Well, that having him come to her and the reinforcement, that's all part of his compliance training. And you notice as a parent that he's playing with his trains and he loves his trains and he knows. He's been doing this for a while. She asked him to come over. He knows exactly what's going to happen. She's going to make me feel good about myself and then I'm going to do something else with her. You don't see him going, oh, not another lesson, or just completely ignoring her like he did in the beginning. She is making sure that he gets enough reinforcement and she's working on the compliance and making sure, it's not like she goes, okay, compliance is done, come here, and then he comes over and she just gets into the lesson. No, she's front loading this child so that when mom says, Jack Riley, come here, he knows, oh, I'm going to come because good things happen. Over time, they're going to fade the huge reaction because we can't always do that, right? Although we should. We should. I remember years ago seeing somebody on the Oprah Winfrey Show who said, when people you love walk into the room, you should light up and acknowledge that they're there, especially your kid. Your kid should see when they come into the room that you go, whoa, my kid is here. And that we should do that for our significant others. We can't always, right? I mean, we probably could, but people would think we're nuts, which, who cares about that? But sometimes we forget, more to the point, we forget. But how nice if we remember to do it from time to time so that we keep front-loading our kid. You come to me and it's good. Ah, what a lovely, lovely lesson. So great therapists, we can learn from them, and you absolutely can learn from watching The A Word. I encourage you to check it out. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk about the blog of the week. This is a goodie. Stick with us. Currently in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're going to take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
Teacher has some glasses.
Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
I have 2 children with autism. I can't imagine a day without CARD or the therapists. They've been so instrumental in helping us with our kids and shaping their lives and helping us help them.
Thank you, Christina Big Alex.
Thank you, Jackie and Mariana.
We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider, and if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable, and recovery from autism is possible.
The day. Welcome back. We are going to talk about the blog of the week, and this is a new blog for me that I was not familiar with, and so I thank you to somebody for showing this to me. It's called Snagglebox, and you can find it at www.snagglebox.com, and you see the tagline, Autism Parenting Support, and there's this lovely little thing here that says there's useful stuff inside the Snagglebox. I absolutely love this and can't wait to look at more things on the blog, but this week their blog is 17 things the Princess Bride taught me about autism parenting. Well, all right, you have me right there at the title. This is great, and I mentioned earlier today, I love a blog when it's got some humor, it's got some really helpful stuff that makes me think about it, and it brings home the emotion, because sometimes, you know, I'm here, sometimes I'm here as an autism parent. So, of course, I want you to go there and check out their blog. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I'm going to read you 1 or 2 things because it's really funny. I love some of these things, like number 2, the thing that they learned from Princess Bride that helped with autism. Optimism can get you through the fire swamp. And they go on to say, just because you haven't tackled a problem before doesn't mean there's no solution, even for POUSs, problems of unusual size. There's a picture here, too, where the character is saying, don't interrupt me while I'm climbing the cliffs of insanity. You see, this is a great blog. I love this one, number 4. You rush a miracle man, you get rotten miracles. And they write, be patient. Change and growth takes time, and there's no corners to be cut here. Every kid is working to their own schedule and developing at their own rate. Love it. Absolutely wonderful. And of course, number 6, which is one of my favorite sayings, never start a land war in Asia. I love well, that's just good advice. So 17 things here, and I promise you that they are they're touching, they're funny, they're moving, and they're honest. I gotta mention 13. Wiggling a finger is worth celebrating, because you remember when he comes back from being dead and he wiggles his finger, and it's worth celebrating. And their advice is to take time to enjoy even the smallest of accomplishments, for they were hard-earned and signs of bigger things to come. I want to be friends with the person who wrote this, and I don't know that it says who it is. I think it's a group of people. I don't know. I can't find that on the blog. I need to look around more to see who this is, but whoever you are, I have to find out. You have to come on the show. I'm already a fan. Snagglebox, www.snagglebox.com. Check it out. You need to see this blog. 17 things the Princess Bride taught me about autism parenting. It rocks. We're going to take a break and we'll come back with more after these messages. Stick with us. There's been another new study about optimal outcomes, and I wanted to know, what are your thoughts on recovery? Do you think it's possible? Do you believe in recovery from autism?
On recovery, you learn how to adapt. I mean, I've had a lot of experimental brain scans done, and I have found things that are definitely abnormal. I have an enlarged left ventricle that's definitely abnormal. That's not going to go away. That scan was done less than 5 years ago. But you work with someone and they adapt. You're not going to make me an algebra specialist. That's just not going to happen. But things like getting better at public speaking, that is something that I gradually learned. What I'm seeing today, especially with some of the kids on the mild end of the spectrum, I'm seeing teenagers that are much milder than me that haven't learned things like how to go up to the counter at McDonald's and order food all by themselves, how to go on the bus, how to shop, how to go in the store and shop, how to do a checkbook, basic things like that. Because what drives me crazy is when I go back to the cattle world and I see a guy in the maintenance shop that's running the whole maintenance shop at a big plant, and he's as Asperger's as he can be, and he's running a whole maintenance shop. And then I see Junior that's addicted to video games, and you can't get his duff off his chair and get him doing things. Now, when I was in high school, I did a lot of thinking about this. I got kicked out of a large girls' school for throwing a book, and I went to a special boarding school up on a farm, and I was allowed to work with the farm animals. And they let me goof off and not study. But I got to thinking, there's one thing they did not let me do. I goofed off and I didn't study, but I had to physically go to class. When I didn't want to go to the Friday night movie, they made me the projectionist. One thing they were not going to let me do is sit in my room, become a recluse in my room. They were not going to allow that.
I want to know why you threw the book. Why did you throw it?
Oh, I threw a book at a girl because she called me a retard.
Oh, good reason.
Oh, no,
to throw
she
it at.
teased me. And I had some problems getting in fights when kids teased me. But it was always brought about by someone picking on me. And the principal had me kicked out of school, out of a large girls' school for doing that.
And what'd your mom say?
Well, she was not very happy about the whole thing, because when the principal called, I answered the phone and he said I was incorrigible and I was kicked out of school. Mother was really angry that he just said that right directly to me, which was definitely not very appropriate.
Welcome back. So that was our newest video with Temple Grandin, and I really love this particular clip, and I'm not there when they edit it, and I love Matt Scheller, who was there, edited this, and I love that he included, I meant to say to him, make sure you include that part at the end, and he did it without me saying it, which was just really fun, because I was sitting there talking with Temple, and we asked her the question, and she was talking about it, and then she said the thing about throwing the book, and I really in that moment went, wow, okay, I have to know. I have to know why this happened. And it may be in her book and I just don't remember it, but I didn't remember it. And so I asked her the question, and when she said to me, oh, well, you know, this girl called me the R word. And I responded as a mom in that moment, because it's never appropriate to throw books, right? It's never appropriate. Although, you know, if somebody calls our children the R word, we certainly understand why they would toss a book. And we talk all the time about how challenging behavior is a means of communication. And in that moment, Temple Grandin was saying that's not appropriate. And clearly there wasn't a teacher stepping up and saying that, right? Or not fast enough. And she said it wasn't the first time that this girl had bullied her. And so she was communicating to that girl, is it appropriate? No. And would we want to go back and make a replacement behavior and say, this is how you need to handle this, and you need to use your words and not throw books? But I think we can all appreciate the sentiment of, if you're going to say that, and you've said it before, you're going to get a book tossed at your head. I responded purely as a parent, not in a good way. But in any case, then it begged the further question, and I said, so what did your mom say? Because I admire Temple Grandin's mother so much. The fact that she had this daughter in a time when autism was not something that was being said, and that she raised her the way she did and forged things, and she didn't know anything about ABA, but she was doing ABA with her daughter and making sure that her daughter was engaged. She just is a hero to me, her mother. And so I wanted to know, so what did your mom say about that? And when she answered and said, my mom was furious, I initially thought, oh, your mom was furious that you threw a book, and I could see where that would be the truth, right? Because quite honestly, if somebody called my child a name now at the point that he's at and he threw a book, I would not be happy. I don't know, furious, but I would not be happy, and we would certainly be having a discussion about that. But I would also be talking about what did the other child do and say and what was being done to intervene. But so I thought that that's what she was saying, and she said, but what my mother was mad about was the fact that the principal, when he called her, said that I was incorrigible, that there was nothing to be done with me, and that he had said that in front of me. That's what her mother was mad about, that the principal had said that in front of Temple. And that just made me want to hug Temple Grandin's mother that much more. I can remember my mom saying to us, and remember, my mom she was born with 2 club feet. So she was differently abled and challenged her entire life, but her challenge was physical. Who was differently abled. Handicapped was not a word that was in my mother's house growing up, and it certainly wasn't a word that was in my house growing up. And but I can remember my mother saying to me, I am on your side. I will always be on your side. I may get angry at you, but I will always be on your side. And I love to hear stories when adults talk about a moment in which it's clearly. And after this interview, and I know that I've said it to my son before, but I don't know that I've said it to him in a recent time when he really could understand it. But I did. I went home with him and I said, hey, you know that I am always on your side, no matter what. You're going to make mistakes, and I'm still going to be on your side. I might get angry at you, and I might get disappointed, but I am always on your side. And he hugged me and said, Mom, that's so nice. I think that's important to say it to our kids, to help them to understand it, and to show it in our actions. I just loved that part of the interview with Temple. Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have our school tip for the week, so stick with us.
What do you think about ABA treatment?
ABA is the one that's documented, but I think that's what I think is important with little kids, the intensity. If this kid's 2, 3, and 4 years old, he needs 20 or 30 hours a week of intensive early intervention, working one-to-one with an effective teacher. And an effective teacher knows kind of how just hard to push, because you've got to stretch these kids. If you don't stretch them somewhere, they don't advance. You push on them too hard, they go into sensory shutdown. The worst thing you could do with an autistic 2-year-old is to do nothing with them and just let them sit there rocking. And when I was very young, at 2.5, ABA type things were used on me, but it wasn't called ABA in that day. You know, my teacher would hold up a cup and she'd speak slowly. You got to speak slowly to these kids because there's auditory processing problems. He'd say cup, and then I'd say cup, and the teacher would praise me. You know, that's very similar to ABA. You know, ABA in its original form is a little kids program. The whole idea is you're trying to get language jump started. And I like the more flexible kinds of ABA. You got different levels of kids. I had ABA type stuff when I was young, but then after I pulled out of it, I didn't have to go through elaborate things of getting ready for school. I still have this habit now today. I lay my clothes out the night before that I'm going to wear, so when I'm sleepy I can just get them on. And then you have other individuals where they've got to do very structured, breaking down the task analysis. This is where after you get out of the little kids and you get them talking, they kind of diverge into different levels of functioning. And a type of ABA program that'd be suitable for a very severe kid would not be something you'd want to do with a mild Asperger kid, because you're going to bore them to death and make them hate school.
Absolutely. Welcome back. It's that time of the week when we like to give you a school tip, something you can do when your child goes off to school that can help them, set them up for success. That's really all we're ever trying to do, right? And by the way, for those of you who are homeschooling, this is equally important to you as well. And what I'm talking about is the buddy system. We've heard time and time again, expert after expert who has come in and spent time with us, and we've talked about bullying and all the different things that we could do about bullying. But it comes down to what's effective, right? And one of the things that's most effective is making sure that our children have some sort of a buddy. What we know, and we want to always educate children who are bullies so that they have a different way of communicating, but we know that bullies tend to pick on children who are alone. It just stands to reason they're an easier target and they don't want to come up against too much resistance, right? So if a child goes to pick on another child and a friend steps in and says, hey, don't talk to them that way, the child is less likely to bully that initial target again. So how can we, along with everything else that we want to do to prevent the child from bullying our child, to help our child to be bully proof, all the different things that we want to do, all the lessons we want to teach them, how do we want to factor in to have a buddy in the classroom and on the playground? There's some different things that we want to consider. Looking at the class and seeing who are the likely people that are going to be helpful. It requires a child who's maybe got some patience and is going to tolerate our child. Sometimes it's just kids who love our children without question and are kind-hearted and good and will take the time to be with our children, and we don't have to look far. Other times you kind of have to pick through and weed through and talk to the teacher, talk to some of the other parents, have play dates where they are invited to your house and you have to go over the top and make those play dates as fun as possible. It also requires sometimes going to that child's house and having a play date, but it really makes a difference for our children. It maybe is uncomfortable for us because it requires having conversations with people or deciding whether to have conversations with people. I will tell you quite honestly that I'm at the point where I do not talk to the other parents about what Jem's diagnosis was and is. I just wait until they ask me if there's anything to be concerned about, but I wasn't that way early on. I would say to parents, hey, can I have a play date? My child is behind socially. He has an autism diagnosis, and I need kids who are willing to be a little patient. You know, and it builds other parents up. I can remember one parent saying, oh, that's so sweet that you think that my child would be good at this, and saying, but your child is. I've seen your child interact with my child, and he's very sweet with my little boy. And that makes a parent very happy. Imagine if somebody came and said that to you, you'd go, wow, I want to be of help and support. And sometimes having the conversation with those kids or their parents having the conversation with them about, hey, can you make a little bit more of an effort with this child because they have some other things going on. And it can be as innocuous as that, not explaining what it is. We went in very early on. My son and I wrote a children's book together, and we would go in during Autism Awareness Month and we would read to the class the book and read to other classes so that other kids would know. And I find that at our particular school, up until now, we'll see how this year goes, that when kids know that there's something else going on, then they're much friendlier, they're much kinder, they're much more patient. I think there are exceptions to that rule, and I do want to say that this grade level where we're at, 4th grade, I'm not sure that it's still going to hold up. But in the past, we have certainly found that to be true. But hooking our children up and having not only a buddy, but a fallback buddy, and maybe an understudy for the fallback buddy, and even knowing, you know, different grades are out on the playground at the same time. So if your child is in 2nd grade and they're on the playground with 2nd and 1st graders, maybe you have a neighbor child who's a 1st grader that they're not in class with, but they're on the playground together, that you know that their social skills are more matched because your child's a little bit behind, and so they're matched to the 1st grader's skills, and putting in a word of, you know, here's a suggestion of what you might want to play with each other on the playground. You do what you have to do, but finding that cushion for our kids, friends, buddies that can be built in. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson has talked about the fact that at her school they have a buddy program that I'm going to be pitching to my school to see if we can get that to happen. There is a buddy program at our school where older grades befriend a younger grade, but they're so far apart that they don't go on the playground at the same time. And at Nancy's school, they have the older kids who are willing to, they go through a training and then will join a younger child on the playground to help facilitate conversations and play. It just sounds like a really wonderful thing, and I definitely want to know more about it and see if I can't have that happening at my son's school. So in any case, figure out with the resources that you have, and I mentioned homeschooling. If you have a child who's homeschooled, you want to make sure that they're having play dates where they have an opportunity to work on the things that they've been working on socially with another child, and having opportunities to engage in those social situations. Really super important. And if we've manipulated in the beginning to have a buddy, that's okay, because eventually that can turn into a true friend. And really, we all want that for all of our kids, don't we? All right, that's our school tip for the week. Stick with us. We're going to be back with more information and more exciting things for you. We'll be right back.
Monica Holloway is a critically acclaimed author, speaker, and activist. She is also an autism mom. Her son Wills was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. Now, at the age of 15, Wills is a high school freshman, attending a mainstream school.
I'm in a brand new school. I'm in a great school that I love, and I'm really happy there. I made friends pretty quickly on the first day, and something interesting happened to me on the first day.
Tell me.
We were doing an art project with fabric markers, and there was a little label on it that said, "Squeeze for best results."
Okay.
And so I squeezed it and it exploded all over the people at my table.
Oh no!
And we were all covered in little blue dots.
I asked Wills how he describes autism to people.
I say that I have Asperger's syndrome, which is a slight form of autism. It doesn't make you any different. It really doesn't. It's just there, and it just kind of makes you who you are.
I asked Wills what he thought of the Sandy Hook shooter's actions being linked to autism.
Please, just don't be scared of autism. If somebody has autism, don't be scared of them. Chances are they're not violent. They're just like you or me.
Monica is a proud mom with good cause. I asked her to describe Wills in 5 words.
Generous, curious, funny, sensitive, loving.
We had a chance to talk about the Sandy Hook massacre and how Monica heard the news.
On Friday, when the shooting happened in Connecticut, I was in my car, and my husband Michael called to tell me what had happened. And I was in a state of shock, as I think we all were, but that many children. And I felt, I guess a mind can't take in that kind of information without feeling nauseous. I felt it go from here all the way down my body. I started calling everybody I knew to tell them I loved them, and I was thinking about them, and I just wanted to be with the people that I knew. I started hearing more and more information come on the news about this shooter having Asperger's or being autistic. And then I started hearing things about, well, does autism cause violence? And I was in a whole other level of shock. Never in a million years would I think that somebody might associate us and my son's face with the face of violence just because he has Asperger's. And I've seen bad days and good days, and that's what kills me, is like there was not a day bad enough to ever make me think that he or any of his friends could ever be violent. The only thing that made me even feel a little bit better, to do something to help educate. And so we've started a campaign on my Facebook page, Cowboy and Wills. It's called I Am the Face of Autism. And please post a picture of yourself. It can be your child, your friend with autism. Let's put these beautiful faces of these people with autism on to wipe out the face of this murderer. Let's put our faces in front of his.
Welcome back. It's time for us to look at your answers to the question of the day. And because I have the attention span of a gnat, I went onto Facebook and I started looking at them, and I then went someplace else. So now I have to go back. In any case, yes, I'll be honest. What I was doing was once again asking Alexis Weinman, saying, come on, be on the show. We want to talk to you. She was Miss Montana in the pageant, the Miss America pageant, and she needs to come on the show. Alexis, come on the show. We're fans. We want to talk to you. Our young ladies who are on the spectrum need a role model like you. We need you. We can have you Skype in, or if you're in Los Angeles, you can come and be on the show. So I was just Facebooking her about that. Okay, so our question of the day, see, I digress. Our question of the day was, what makes you angry about autism research? And you know I love a good crab fest. Every once in a while, we just have to get it up and out and go, I'm crabby I'm crabby about this. So we had some people who wrote in. Somebody said that they don't really talk to autistics, they just assume. Somebody else who said it was wasn't until only recently that they started dumping funds into research. Someone else who says, oh, and they act like autism is a disease that needs a cure, and they wrote, ugh. Someone else who says reporting the research to legislators that know little or nothing about autism and letting them make decisions for us. And they went on to say, I lobby for CARD on the East Coast as a parent advocate, and that is the most irritating, to speak to legislators, especially about the research. They are uneducated. Well, yeah, that's like the beginning of the sentence and the end of the sentence, isn't it? And then our good friend over at TACA, Lisa Ackerman, wrote on our page and said, the way we look at research needs a complete makeover. We need to be thoughtful, innovative, and act with a sense of urgency. And autism deserves the funding of other conditions and diseases, not the pennies it gets today. Amen to that, Lisa Ackerman. And I will say, too, I love the study that TACA was just a part of that it should be published soon. We had an opportunity to show that when we featured them on the show here, where they took iPads and instead of giving them to the kids who were most likely to recover, they gave them to the kids who were showing the least amount of progress, and they gave them really good ABA in conjunction with their iPads and said, let's take a look and see if this makes it more effective, if we see more progress. And of course, it was tremendous progress. The kids learned so much in such a short period of time. Everybody's excited. We can't wait for the study to be published. And of course, I will keep you posted on that. Okay. On one of our other sites here, oh, you guys wrote in overwhelmingly. Somebody wrote in and said that and of course we're talking about what makes you angry about autism research. Somebody wrote in that it's not updated. Someone else says the bandwagon jumpers, that they all jump on the bandwagon. Oh, it's this, it's that, instead of doing further research on something. Somebody else says quite simply that there is not enough quality research being done, and if there is, it is limited to either where you live or how much money your state has. In Illinois, where I live, there is little to nothing being done. Somebody else who says the feeling of helplessness. Again, we're answering the question, what makes you angry about autism research? And somebody said the feeling of helplessness, wish I could do more to help my son, also worrying about his future and whether we will be able to properly prepare him to live on his own. I guess I get angry at myself, thinking I should do more. I should be a better mom. And you know, I think we all understand right where she's coming from, right? Because we've all had that moment, right? Where you get so angry at somebody else about, why aren't you doing this? And then you kind of whittle it back and you go, all right, I'm angry at them, but really who I'm angry at is me, and am I doing enough? And we never let it go. We never feel like we're doing enough. Card-carrying member of the club of never feeling like I'm doing enough. But I think it's important that we have our support groups who remind us, you're doing a fabulous job. You really are. You really, really are. And yes, there's always going to be more that you can do, but you're doing all that's humanly possible. And you know what? One of the things that somebody told me when I was pregnant, and I said, I'm so afraid I'm not going to be a good mom. And I don't know anybody who was pregnant who didn't have that thought float through at some point. What if I'm not a good parent? And I remember saying this to a friend, and she said, you know what the biggest requirement of being a good parent is being capable of loving the child. And the friend said to me, and I know for sure you're going to love this child. Yeah, we don't always do everything right. We don't always know everything or get hooked up with the right thing or have the amount of money that it might take for us to do everything that everybody else is doing. But, you know, it's a really good indicator when you say, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I'm 100% sure you're an awesome mom. 100% sure. But I'll tell you, because sometimes you need somebody else to tell you, right? It's hard. Somebody else answering the question, what really makes you angry about autism research? Somebody said the fact that they can't find an exact cause for autism. Yeah, I'm angry about that too. I'll tell you, they haven't found an exact cause for the cold. They haven't found a cure for it. I think they know the cause of it now. They haven't found an exact cause for cancer. Lots of different variables. So yeah, I'm frustrated. I'm resentful about it, but it is what it is, right? And thank heavens they're finding out what works. And that's a good thing. Somebody else answering the question, what really makes you angry about autism research? It's not genetic. Stop wasting money when we know it's environmental. Well, you know, one of the most recent studies that came out said that there is a genetic component of it, right? But there's a huger, more importantly, because we can't change the genetics, right? There is an environmental component, we know that for sure, and we do have the ability to change that. So I'm with you, but there is a little bit of a genetic component to it. Okay, so somebody else who says, I don't really want to know why my kids have autism anymore. Now I want answers to help them live their lives to the fullest possibility. And you know what? Right there with you, Vulcan mind melt, going with you there. I do care about the cause. I do care about the cause because, and you know what, I see this in phases, that we have our kids, and up until the moment when they get diagnosed and we realize, oh man, I gotta get on the stick here and I gotta find out what helps, we care about what causes autism. We absolutely do. Then when it's that thing we've been talking about all week long, when your kitchen is on fire, you don't have time to redo the cushions on the deck. So when your child is diagnosed with autism, you need to put out the kitchen fire and you got to solve the problem right now. But I am seeing that once then your child gets older and is doing well because you got the help, you start worrying about, my child's going to have kids and my nieces and my nephews are going to have kids. And you get back to worrying about, what the heck? Why is this happening? So I do think it's a phasal thing, but I'm right there with you. We need to help our kids lead their fullest possible lives, and that's of paramount importance right now. Somebody else answering the question, what really makes you angry about autism research? That not enough research is conducted about biomedical interventions and environmental causes. I think most of us are in agreement. People are writing in saying, I agree with that. Somebody else says, I'm angry that there isn't a larger awareness campaign going on to help parents find answers. Job number one here, that's what we're doing. And I'm angry that autism research, environmental or genetic, isn't getting more funding to help parents provide the best childhood and adult lives possible for our children, with an exclamation point. I think that a lot more money needs to be focused on the teen to adult person with autism spectrum needs. And you're getting a ton of likes because people are loving this comment. I agree. We all know our kids are going to age out of the current system. There's got to be more, and it's got to happen now. Somebody writes in and says there isn't enough of it, referring to the autism research. People are writing in agreement. It says the one thing that concerns me is that if research finds a way to tell if an unborn child has autism, much like Down syndrome, I truly hope this doesn't happen. A lot of beautiful children/lives may be ended due to the stigma, which is often unfounded. I agree. It's a concern. Somebody else says that they have the same hopes and dreams. We must do whatever is in our hands and have faith and believe in the potential of our little angels. They need us now. And hopefully in the future we'll become totally independent. I get hope when I see successful stories like the one of Carly Fleischman. Absolutely. And somebody else wrote it and said, hugs to all, you must be incredibly strong parents. I love when you guys talk to each other. It's great. Another person saying what they hate about autism research is politics and corruption, statistical bending, and manipulation. Someone else says, I agree with everyone's comments so far. My biggest grievance is that how do you get any of the money that is supposed to be going to help with paying for therapies not covered by insurance? My boy needs them and we can't afford them. We can barely afford his supplements every month. It's tough. It's tough in finding where all that money is going. It's really, really frustrating. But again, I advocate back to sources close at home that I know are effective. There are people who give grants. And for instance, Autism Care and Treatment Today, apply. I know that they're not in a grant phase right now. They just finished a grant phase. We'll let you know when they're in the next grant phase. But don't suffer in silence. Apply for grants. We've talked before about United Healthcare Children's Fund also gives grants. Getting hooked up with things like that. We'll do another show. Actually, tomorrow we talk about funding, so we'll do that then. another person who says, I'm angry that autism is in the DSM, making it a mental illness. My child is not mentally ill. And if it isn't mental illness, then why isn't it the treatment covered under mental health services? With a lot of exclamation points. You're not the only person to be asking that question. There's a lot of frustrated people. I'm going to keep reading, but we're here at the end of the show, and Emily's going to start to cycle through some of the different ways that you can be in touch with us. I really want to encourage you to go to our Facebook page, take a look at some of these responses that are there, talk to people. You know, every once in a while we need to get this up and out, and while you're there, give us a like, would you? Because we enjoy having your viewership. Somebody else says about autism research, it's so pointless and unyielding. Someone else says, it is what it is, and I'm dealing as best I can. Just wish that there were more help on a local front. My son will be out of the school system in May 2014, and I have no idea how I'm going to deal with him after that. We are on the longest list for the medical waiver, but I need an adult special needs daycare till his waiver is approved, and guess what? Those places don't want to touch you with a 10-foot pole if you are private pay. Bless your heart. So many more things. I'm scrolling down and seeing all the things. Check them out on our Facebook page, and I love when you guys interact. I want to remind you that we're here tomorrow from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so when you have the blizzard going on, we will be here, and that is 10 a.m. to noon Pacific Standard Time, and you can check us out on the new app. It's called the Autism Speaks Network. It's a free download on both the iTunes and Google Store. Check us out there. And also stay with us on Facebook tomorrow. Until tomorrow, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.